Well, right now we have the Personnel Committee update on Executive Director evaluation, and we have a guest presenter, and that's the reason why, and that person's online. And that's why I wanted to skip over, or not skip over, but pause. So do we have our Human Resources Culture Officer, Human Resources Director, Glynis Kleinfelder, CO on she on the screen?
I'm here.
Oh, you're there.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce our guest presenter, please.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Glynis Kleinfelter, CO, HR Director and Chief Culture Officer. I'm here on behalf of the Personnel Committee to bring forward a presenter. This is Rick Park from Fit HR. Who we contracted with to conduct the Executive Director evaluation for FY22. At the May Board of Governors meeting, a motion was made and approved for WSBA to contract with Fit HR to conduct the evaluation. The contract has been finalized and we are ready to move forward. So the next step is to hear from Rick on the scope of the project, proposed timeline, and next steps. And my hope is that the board discusses it and selects a designee from the board to work with Rick and myself so that we can move this forward. So without further ado, Rick Park, I saw you online.
I am. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thank you all. I appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you about performance management. Before we get into the content, just a brief introduction from me. My background is I earned a PhD in industrial organizational psychology and essentially have spent my career in all things talent. And the specific areas are compensation, recruiting selection, retention, training and development, and performance management. So those are my specialties. That's what I chose to do for a career. And I'm so honored to be here today. I can tell you internally, we all had battles, friendly battles, but battles about who was going to get this project. And I was really glad to get it. So today, I'm just going to review a couple of slides with you to give you a feel for what Glynis and I have discussed. And the hope is to set you up such that you can identify a partner for us as we move forward in the design of this project. So if all goes well, you'll see my screen here in a little bit. Just let me know if you see it.
We can see it, Rick.
Excellent, thank you. Give me a minute to put it in presentation mode. Okay. So our objective, the primary objective here is to put you in a position to identify a partner for Glynis and I as we proceed with the design and implementation of a performance management system for the executive director job. Glynis and I have had some great dialogue about what this should be, and we're going to share all of that with you. But I do want to say that the idea here is to share that with you, and happy to discuss any of that with you. But at the same time, if we discuss all of those points, will be about an hour. So my suggestion is ask questions when you need to ask questions for clarification, but we're not trying to get to a final product here. We're trying to find somebody that can help us get to a final product. This has a lot of permutations and combinations, as you can imagine, and we can spend a lot of time trying to understand all of that. But again, I don't want, if there's something you don't understand, please ask. I'm happy to do that. But diving into every detail may push us beyond your lunch at this point. So how we're going to do that, brief review of the agenda, how the project's going to go from start to finish, give you a little bit of insight in terms of what a good performance review is and how to look at it. And then we'll get into some of the details around what the process tends to look like, best practices there, content tends to look like, best practices there. And we'll preview the pilot technology that we're thinking about using as we proceed forward. So with that, the overview of the project, simple flow chart. Today I'm reviewing as the kickoff. The next 6 weeks or so, the idea is to finalize what the content of the review, what kind of elements we should have in it, what kind of duties or goals or responsibilities we should have in it, and what type of skills we should have in it, with the relevant definitions, with the relevant rating scales, with the relevant sort of observational narrative portals. So all those things we can do in about 6 weeks. In fact, we've actually made progress there. I like a lot of what we've done. So I think we may be quicker in this particular area. But we're not done yet. The hope is we just want to make sure that the content works, the content looks good to everybody or most of the people that are going to use it. And we also want to make sure that the technology works too. We're not going to send out a paper form and have people put X's in it. This is a technology-driven process. It's going to be easy to respond to, easy to grab the data, easy for the executive director to review as they get towards the end. We think August, September is a good timeline to finalize content. And then we'll sort of turn it over and sort of give guidance with respect to ongoing support as we hit the review year, October through September of 2023. Any questions about this overview?
Any questions for Dr. Park? And by the way, Dr. Park's slides are available in our material starting at page 358, in case you want to remember some of the stuff that he's going over.
Thank you, Brian.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Sorry,
Governor Higginson, followed by Governor Bell.
I didn't mean to jump in there. I just didn't see the other hand up, but so thank you. My question, Doctor, is when you're talking about the pilot version and the pilot test, am I understanding that that wouldn't be the actual survey? It would just be some kind of a trial run, and then the actual work will be done at a later time?
Close. What you will see is what I view as a 99% done version. It will be vetted by the right people, and it will be sort of, I'll review it, and anybody else who wants to review it before we actually pilot. So yes, it'll be, I would call a pilot version, but it will be what I view and what Glynis views and what our partner views as final. We just want to make sure that that little pieces are working together. Does that help?
That is helpful. If I do have a follow-up question, and you may know this already, but the turnover from at the end of governor's terms, such as mine, and the beginning of new terms is at the end of September. So I have a little bit of, I guess I need some clarification from you on exactly how this would work in terms of timing, because if you start with one group of governors and then you continue on with a different group of governors, how do you see that working?
Yeah, that's pretty common. Oftentimes, respondents will change throughout the year. The hope is that the content is clear enough and Glynis will be available to sort of help and support the new Board of Governors as they sort of transition into their new roles. But I will also say that the content, given the scrutiny that we have and given our focus on that, should be relatively clear. So it will take some hand holding, so to speak, to get a new person up to speed. But I feel comfortable that with a combination of Glynis, me, and clear content, that we'll get through that piece. I know there's going to be a change in president here, but at the same time, I think both presidents are here, so that particular piece won't be an issue.
Thank you. And if I may, I have one final follow-up question. If the point of, and I don't know if this is the point, but if the point of the survey is to garner viable feedback on the performance of the executive director, how do you see that working when the people that are currently on the board, all of us have worked with the executive director for somewhere between 1 and in my case 4+ years.
Mm-hmm.
We cycle off the governors who have worked with her for 3 years, which is the other people that are going off the board with me at the end of September, bringing on people that may have worked with her for a week or 2 or a month. How do you see that impacting the validity of the survey results?
Yeah, to me, that's going to be a combination of the tool itself and the judgment of the respondent. Again, I'll go. My role is to deliver content that's understandable and meaningful, but at the same time, the respondent needs to be sort of realistic in terms of what they know and what they don't know. And to the extent they haven't had any exposure to, say, sort of delivering a certain program, they will have the option to say, I cannot rate at this time. So, familiarity will be left to the respondent. I will also add that I think it's important, and I know you've had debate and we can continue to debate, but I do believe it's important for this team to supply names so that if there are questions that people have, that Tara has, or that Brian has, or that Daniel has, as we proceed through the performance year, we can go back to the actual respondent and ask questions about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And by the way, doctor makes me feel funny. You can call me Rick. I'm not teaching any courses, so
I like Dr. Park. I think it's has a good ring to it.
No,
okay,
there's a little part of me that likes it too, but it feels uncomfortable.
Governor Bell, followed by Governor Clark.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Rick, for that overview. That was very helpful. My question for you is whether this product is something that, as designed, that we can use in future years, or whether it's kind of a one and done type product.
No, this will be evergreen. It'll go from the day we launch till whenever you want to do something different. It's really, think of it this way. We're going to give you a web-based portal into which you can put the content in every year. And even during the review years, you can modify content. So treat this as, technology people call it evergreen, which means that it will live and breathe and grow as the business lives and breathes and grows. So no, this is not a one and done product. This is something I deliver in my head. This will last for as long as you want it.
Great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Governor President-elect Clark.
Thank you, Brian. So I had a question. I guess I'm not really clear. You're saying then that these evaluations would have our names on it, that's your, I mean, because I thought we had, I'm completely opposed to that because historically the 5 years that I've been here, I've seen retaliation happen because of that. So if that's going to go, if that's going to be the case, I won't do one. And that is not what the, I mean, we had, when we selected you, that was not my, I mean, what this board had done. So I kind of feel like this is a, I mean, kind of, you know, some bait and switch with that. I also think that, excuse me, but I also think that it would make more sense to have the first one done by the FY20. I mean, you know, it seems kind of odd to commingle the BOG with the other ones that are going to leave now. It would seem like better to do one with our board right now, and then a new one. You know, I mean, you know what I mean. Okay, okay, with the next year's group.
Fair enough. Two names. Listen, I'm a consultant. I'm going to give you my best opinion. Ultimately, I'm not forcing anything on you. Let's just be clear here. I want everybody to be comfortable with the product you get, and I can honestly say that if you don't have names, it's not something that I'm going to jump up and down about. But I will defend my position. In my limited perspective, each of you has a important impact on the performance of the organization. I believe that's your role. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And as it hits the ground in this particular project, I think it's important that you share your opinions with the person who's running this organization. And I also think that you should be open to talking to that person about your specific comments. Now, people are uncomfortable about adding their names only for a limited couple of reasons. One is the retaliation. I can't say what happened in the past. I think that's really unfortunate, obviously. But, you know, the other thing is I do believe that, well, it is a best practice for an employee to be able to go to the person that shared their opinions to clarify. And, you know, the other thing people use to get away from adding names is there's this notion that you aren't forthcoming in your ratings, or you soft pedal your thoughts. And you know, my position is I think people in your role, or people in the role board of governors, are obligated to share accurate thoughts. So again, and that's just my opinion. I do think it's important, but if I'm overruled here, it's not going to hurt me. But I think it's an important piece of it. The second thing is I do like the idea of sort of doing a performance review for the end of this year. The problem we have is the content it'll be new to everybody, newer. It'll take a while to build. And I do worry a little bit about the sort of the utility of a program that we just rolled out that's supposed to reflect a whole year of performance. The second piece is it'll just take some time to do. So we may have something at the end of the review year, which we might have too short of a window to do anything with. But so just my opinions there. Again, just take it for what it's worth. And you know, I do advocate putting names, but certainly will heed to what the Board of Governors wants to do.
Correct, thank you. I'm going to move that we don't have names.
Okay.
Well, can we just delay your motion because I think Rick, sorry, don't want to make you feel uncomfortable about how you're referred to. Rick's got some more slides to go through, and I'd like him to get his presentation so he can
Sure, Brian.
get on his merry way.
Okay.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. This slide is essentially the things around the outside of that square. These are the things that I bring to the table. I've got depth of experience and research and all of this stuff. And this is my commitment to what I'm going to deliver here. But it is interesting as we start getting into the content and as we start getting into definitions and we start getting into rating scales. It's interesting that people will dive into the content as they should, but there is sort of the objective that you need to keep in mind really is it's really about the dialogue between Tara and whoever the president is and anybody else that wants to contribute. All these things are important, but they all melt away once you start to think about the end product and the objective here. We're trying to give Tara a good feel for how she's done, what she's done over the course of the year. And as we start to put content together, I would just ask people to resist the urge to try to make it perfect. And from a practical standpoint, executive reviews, I'm not sure you can ever make them perfect, but as long as you get the president and the executive director in a position to have a meaningful dialogue about the productivity and the contributions of the executive director, it's exactly where you want it to be. They may talk about the definitions of some of the scales, but at the end of the day, that's all going to melt away when they start talking about the actual activity. So that's just a long way of saying you can spend $10,000 on this project for a great product, or you can spend $50,000 on this for a great product. So I would urge people to sort of avoid the desire to edit in the context that it's about a dialogue at the end. And that doesn't mean I'm not open to review. I just want to make sure that we're clear around the law of diminishing returns when we're starting to talk about the end product here. This is a little busy. I won't go into all of this. Again, this was Glennis and I putting our best thoughts together with respect to how this review might work throughout the period. So we can go into some of the dialogue here, but the intent here is to talk about who may be responsible during what period and what they'll do. So if you think about a review period, there's always a period where the content is established, and that's before the review period actually starts. What are the goals? What are the objectives? What is the executive director set up to accomplish for the following or the upcoming year? Then there's a period of time during the evaluation period where people can provide their input either on the content or on the performance of the executive director. And then there's the post-evaluation period, which is where the dialogue happens with respect to feedback to the executive director. So the activity itself, who's going to own the content? Again, very preliminary discussion. The reason we're having this discussion is to get you in a position to identify the person that will work with us. But at the end of the day, we saw the executive director and the president as the core two people here that are going to be involved in the feedback, involved in content, involved in dialogue with respect to performance. And that stays the same throughout all periods. Certainly, we want the Board of Governors involved in terms of if there are content changes or anything changes the content of the review, certainly we'll want them to take a look at it. Ongoing support, that's Glennis, and to the extent that you need fit HR, certainly we'll be happy to be engaged there. Supplemental feedback, performance feedback outside of the tool. Again, that's sort of embedded with the idea of names. And if you choose not to do names, Tara won't have anybody to go to get specific feedback about certain things. And I'm not trying to sell it anymore. I'm just giving you the straight shot there. Yeah, if content's changed during the period of the year, we'll identify or we'll let people know, the Board of Governors and direct reports will let people know if there's any changes. Then the rest of it is really who's going to do the review and who's going to record observations. We do have some open issues here that we'd like to work with our partner on. One is, do we actually establish quarterly or 2 or 3 formal, semi-formal reviews during the evaluation period? That has its puts and takes, but it's worth considering, and that's a decision that we'll need to make. Including directs in a performance review is actually pretty rare. I would say that oftentimes incumbents may not, let me put it this way, incumbents may not have the perspective that they should in terms of evaluating their boss's performance. Not saying that's true, but sometimes that's the case. And if you're worried about retaliation, this may happen here too. So at least our preliminary thinking is there's good ways to get employee feedback or direct report feedback in the way of engagement surveys and in the way of development surveys or 360 degrees. But performance reviews have a special little niche in the performance continuum that tends to make direct reports a little less viable. And I haven't made a decision, that's just my thinking. And we'll discuss that with whoever our partner is at the end. And if we choose to do reviews for both directs and for the Board of Governors, we may choose to do separate reviews. They may have different content. That's something we have to decide. And Glennis informed me, and I hope I'm putting this the right way. Glennis, keep me honest here. But it's possible that this review may be available to the public. I worry about that for the reason that people will sort of soft pedal the stuff that Tara would need to hear. From a purist standpoint, I'm going to be less willing to sort of give a lower rating or provide very accurate but sort of firm content on what needs to change and making that public. That just won't happen in a review where it's going to be public. So I'm not saying we need to decide that now, but that's an issue that we need to think about. Any questions on this? I know that's a bunch of information here, but this is our preliminary view of the process and how it might work.
Yeah, Governor Higginson.
Thank you. And could I first inquire, Mr. President, we are, I realize it's the noon hour. Am I intruding on another event we're supposed to have if I ask a few questions?
I don't think we have any plans for the lunch hour. It's just we're going to take a lunch break. So I think we
Okay.
can slide into it a little ways. We do have a presenter at 1:45 that we have to work into our schedule. So
Okay, well, thank you then. So Rick, I may be coming at this from a different perspective because I was the chair of the personnel committee, which originally was charged with conducting the evaluation of the executive director. And then that was moved to the board. And we had actually written a bunch of questions for her, which to see if she could help us with the evaluation of her job performance vis-a-vis her job description. And as you may or may not know, we had contemplated that it would be going to the board members, the officers, and the executive management team, the department heads, not to anyone else. And we had contemplated that it would be confidential, because I can tell you that yes, there was retaliation as a result of critical comment made when she was an interim executive director. I was the recipient of some of that, and so was Dan Clark, and that's why we're sensitive about it. What I don't know if you have had a chance to consider is maybe not so much retaliation from Tara, but from other people on the board or others within the organization who do not like what someone else might say. And that's a pretty tough thing to really control. But I can tell you that it does happen, and I would predict that it will happen. If nothing else, it makes it a really difficult dynamic for working between people who may have one view of how she's doing and people that ask questions or are critical of certain areas. And that causes this kind of attention. We've had many discussions on this board about her job duties and whether they're what she does is operational. A number of my colleagues have said that publicly that we don't have a right as a board to question what she does, that she's the expert, we let her do her job, et cetera, et cetera. So some of this is spinning in the background, you see, when I'm hearing what you're saying. So I'm wondering what you have. Well, and I also think that at one of our last meetings when we voted to have a consultant hired, I'm pretty positive, others can help me with this, that we voted that the evaluation would be confidential. So that's my first question, is if it's confidential, is that going to alter what you're recommending? That's my first question. Secondly, can you comment on, if it's not confidential, what you might foresee with your expertise about potential either retaliation or just causing additional friction between people who don't agree on the evaluation that was given? And then number three, what have you been told about the purpose of this review? And I say that because Tara's job description simply says she'll be evaluated annually, not quarterly. And it doesn't say why she'll be evaluated, but I think an unfavorable evaluation would not be the basis for termination. So we took the position at Personnel Committee that this was more of an informational let's help her be the best executive director she can be. And it has nothing to do with if it's not favorable, she'll be terminated or any negative repercussions. So those are my questions, and I threw three at you at one time, I realize, but appreciate it.
I can honestly say I'm struggling with exactly what they are. But if we decided not to include names, I think the first one had to do with including names. That's okay with me. I'm very sorry. Let me silence this. I do feel funny about the retaliation piece. To me, that boils down to professional behavior. And I can't control that at the end of the day. I don't think this performance review is going to control that at the end of the day. So if we're so concerned about professional behavior and retaliation, maybe we just make this between the president and the executive director. And the reason I say that is I hate to design around aberrant behavior that's not common. And, you know, I wasn't there for all of that, and I can feel the tension, but at the same time, I can't tell you that that won't happen again. I can only say that this is supposed to be for Tara's feedback. But your third question, what have I been told? Yes, this is intended to be a thorough, this is intended to be a tool where Tara gets a reasonably comprehensive viewpoint perspective on the duty, on how she's doing on the duties of her role, and how she's doing on the objectives that we set at the beginning of the performance review. So that's it. So, you know, I'm an advocate for sort of being clear at the very beginning of the year what an employee or incumbent is out to accomplish. I'm a big advocate for giving regular feedback in that particular area. And so in my mind, that represents the core of this project. Termination and all those other things, you guys decide what that means. I'm simply giving her feedback with respect to what she's done, how she's done it, and those sorts of things.
Okay.
And if there's something I missed, by all means, I want to hear it. But I wasn't 100% following what your exact questions were.
No, I think you actually answered them all perfectly. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, I think we have another question for Rick from our General Counsel, Julie Shankland.
Thank you. Actually, I would just like to say that now there have been 2 comments in a public meeting alleging retaliation. And I would just like to remind everyone that the WISBA does not tolerate retaliation. We have policies against retaliation. And if anyone believes that they have been the subject of retaliation, you are encouraged and invited to file a complaint. Thank you.
Thank you, General Counsel Shanklin. Any other questions for Rick? So as a wrap up, I'm going to turn it back over to our HR director to see if she has any final thoughts or comments.
So I think there was a little bit more that we wanted to go through, but in the interest of time, I think the next step should be that, I mean, it's clear we need a partner from the board that can come forward and bring the board's perspective, help us form the questions, help us identify the respondents, and what the entire thing looks like, as well as the timeline. So there are some other things I think Rick wanted to cover, including, you know, one of several tools that we could use. It's like a Survey Monkey type of tool, and some other things. But I think at this point, it's probably best that the board take action and have further discussion. But before we do, Rick, was there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap it up? I know that we kind of cut off the presentation.
I think we're good. I think we positioned you all well to sort of make an informed choice. The only thing that I would say is there tends to be 2 sections to these things. The first section is what the executive director is supposed to accomplish during the year. And the second is how they actually do it. So those tend to be skills, as in leadership, as in sense of urgency, as in those kinds of things. So that's best practice in terms of what the review will actually look like. But the rest of it we're good with.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. I actually thought Rick was done with his presentation, but is there anything else you want to add? And again, all the slides are in your materials, folks. So if you want to go through those, you can.
No, I feel good about it. We have a tool already set up and it works well. We like it. But again, it's most important for us to walk away with the idea, or for you to walk away with the work ahead of us, such that you're positioned well to make an informed choice.
Okay, we did have a motion that was seconded not to have names associated with the evaluation. Is there any discussion?
Sure, Brian, can I speak
Yes.
on it, please? Thank you. So I strongly believe that we shouldn't. We had heard from Glennis, and I agree with her that the standard on these is to not do so. One of my goals for next year that I really hope we can do is, as a board, work better with staff for us. I'm going to get along better. And I think if we put names on there, that there will be some that are mad at, with the results. I don't think there's any value to that. And I think that if there are names, I think the term was soft pedal. One. So yeah, with that, if there are names, I won't do one. So yeah, thank you.
Governor Williams-Ruth.
This is something that I advocated for when we first started discussing this as a board. And it relates to my idea that where we are in the organizational structure and at the quote unquote top of the food chain, and the responsibility to have an open dialogue and be able to tell people directly without anonymity, without hiding behind, we can pull in a countless number of anecdotal evidence like social media where people will say things through the anonymity of a screen name that they would never say in person. And I strongly believe that in order to have the appropriate exchange of information and ideas regarding whether we think performance has been stellar down to subpar, that whatever your belief should be, it should be signed, dated. The idea that you can be in this position and exist in a position of anonymity is contrary to my own fundamental beliefs of what it means to serve in this role. And I would encourage us to reject the motion and proceed with the recommendation of having a signed statements. Thank you.
Governor Treasurer Peterson.
I'll make this quick as lunch is waiting for us. But we all know that our HR director told us that it's industry standard for it to be confidential. And if you really want good, honest feedback, that's what you're going to have to insist upon. I'm a little bit disturbed because my recollection is that the Olympia meeting, we already had a motion and seconded it, and it was already passed by the board that it would be confidential. So when the expert's now saying it's not going to be, from a board perspective, that was pretty disturbing to me. Thank you.
Anybody else have any thoughts, feelings, or concerns about this? Yes, we have our HR director, and then we have, I bet, the number 690 is Governor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you. This is why we need a partner on the board. so that they could bring forward what it is the board wants. If you want to keep it anonymous, if you want to have an option to put your name on it, then that's up to the board. Rick is not here to tell us what to do. You know, I can share what I've seen. Rick can share what he's seen. But at the end of the day, this is the board. I can't even design this because Tara's my supervisor, and that's a conflict, right? So I'm here to help facilitate the process. So at the end of the day, the board ultimately decides, regardless of what Rick or I say.
Thanks very much. Is that you, Governor Stevens, number 690?
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
You're up.
So thank you. I'm going to, I was thinking about this, and even the option doesn't really work, meaning you can sign or not sign, because if 80 or 90% of us sign and 10% or 20% don't, we have a fairly small universe that it's going to be easy to determine, who the outliers are. I would rather hear their honest assessment. And my understanding is, in any case, what we're really going to do is both provide the individual information without names, but also the composite score, the composite results. And that would be something I would want us to do. And actually that the composite actually is the evaluation, because it is not the president nor any individual that actually has that role. It's the Board of Governors that hires, and we as a body have the executive director as our employee. But I think, I'm going to support this, and because I think you could still have the individualized information, so you could see, even if you have a composite score, one would be able to see, but were there outliers, and what were those outliers about, without a name. So I'm gonna support this, because I would rather everybody participate as opposed to some not, because they're forced to disclose who they are. So actually just putting your name on the evaluation, I don't think is going to be worthwhile. So.
Thank you, Governor Stevens. Governor Abell.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to largely echo Governor Stevens' comments. I think, what I've heard and I'm hearing from governors is that by having the comments be anonymous, it allows us to have greater, freer, frank, candid comments and feedback, which is what I think everybody wants here. The second part is, I think it's important to remember that if we do have anonymous feedback, that does not prevent any one member of the board from in effect owning their comments either directly in the feedback or face-to-face with the executive director. I mean, my process, and I'm part of a number of different large institutions that have always done anonymous feedback and evaluations, is to do the written component, which is anonymous, and then go out and have an in-person session with the individual being reviewed. And that's actually gone over very well in my experience. And sometimes the comments just make very clear who it's coming from. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I intend to support the motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Sounds like we're ready to vote then. Okay. Governor Abell.
Aye.
Governor Adwale.
Nay.
Governor Angelville.
No.
Governor Boyd.
No.
Governor Clark.
Aye.
Governor Couch. Governor Dresden. Governor Higginson.
Aye.
Governor McBride. Governor McBride, Governor Peterson,
Yes.
Governor Pertzer, Governor Sayani, Governor Stevens. Could you say it again, Governor Stevens?
Aye.
Governor Williams-Ruth.
No.
So I'm returning to Governor McBride.
No.
And then I thought Governor Dresden was here today. Am I missing Governor Dresden? Did he have to step away? His name is on the screen, but ooh, I think we have a tie vote here. Is that what you have, Executive Director Nevitt?
Yes.
5 yeses, 5 noes. I am voting aye. So with my breaking the tie, the motion carries. Okay, folks, we are running behind, but we have some people that are going to be giving us like a CLE this afternoon. We have some guest presenters. And I hate to do this and cut your social hour short at lunch, but I think, just so we can stay on track and get done by 5 o'clock, we got to cut the lunch hour down to about 35 minutes. So, well, a little over 35. How about 37? So how about we start again at 1:05 p.m. Thank you very much.
President Tollefson, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Do we have a representative from the board that will partner with Rick and myself to carry this project forward?
Well, can we take that up after lunch? I mean, we're going to work on that. Yeah. Maybe we could have volunteers to, notify you that they would be willing to work, and then you could tell us who's volunteered, and we can then, maybe vote on who we think the board can vote on who they think would be a good good person to work with the board. I realize you've got the president there as one of the people that you want to do, but realize that's probably the president-elect that you want to have do that, because he's going to be more involved moving forward than I am, because I'll be the past president here pretty quick. So not that I'm, trying to diminish my role here, but probably for consistency and for continuity, that probably is the person that might be identified as a possible person. So if there are other people who want to volunteer, contact our HR director, and we'll probably try and maybe take it up possibly at the end of the day. Send her an email. You all have her email address. I certainly do. So, but we got to keep moving. So I'll see you all back here at 1:35. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for your time.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1:05, not 1:35. 37 minutes or thereabouts. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I thought we should try and finish up with the personnel matter. We still got our human resources chief culture officer on the line there.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. Yes. So during the break, I got 2 volunteers to come to join the working group to partner with Rick Park and myself.
You want to identify them?
Yes, Alex Stevens and Lauren Boyd.
Could you repeat what you said? I should have not talked.
Yes, Governor Stevens and Governor Boyd.
Okay. Do we need a formal motion to approve that, or should we just do it by acclamation?
I'll make one, if so.
Governor President-elect Clark, what did you say?
I mean, yeah, I'll make one. Then, yeah, sure. That's
I
great.
would second
Okay.
the governor.
Any discussion about these 2 folks? Sounds like we're ready to vote. So there's been a motion and a second to have Governor Stevens and Governor Boyd added to the group that's going to interface with the FIT HR folks regarding the evaluation. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Governor Abell,
Aye.
Governor Adwale,
Aye.
Governor Angelville,
Aye.
Governor Boyd,
Aye.
Governor Clark,
Aye.
Governor Couch, Governor Dresden, Governor Higginson, Governor McBride,
Aye.
Governor Peterson,
Yes.
Governor Pertzer, Governor Sayani, Governor Stevens,
Aye.
Governor Williams-Ruth.
Aye.
I do believe we have a unanimous vote. Is that what you have, Executive Director Nevitt?
Yes.
Okay, those two folks are added to the team. Thank you very, very much. Right. The next thing we need to get back to before we have some folks here that are, Governor President-elect Clark has his hand up.
Sure. I'd like to make a further motion that we allow the 3L governors that are going to be rolling off to be involved in this as well.
Is there a second?
Well, as a point of clarification, when will this survey be ready to be rolled out and for people to evaluate the executive director?
The idea is that the evaluation is done before the end of the fiscal year. So all active governors will be included as respondents.
Okay, so I'm not sure the motion is required, but I guess see if there's a second.
So by fiscal year, do you mean this fiscal year, our next one?
This fiscal year.
Oh, okay then. That's fine then. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean then, yeah.
You withdrawing your motion?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let's move on then. Are we finished now with the personnel matter from your perspective, HR Director?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.